So it is 6 o'clock. Let's give folks a few more minutes to join, and we'll get started in just a couple minutes. If that's okay with you, Sam.
That works for me.
Excellent. And I assume you have no problems with the meeting being recorded and posted on YouTube, correct?
Nope, that should be good.
Okay, very good. Hi, Amir.
Hi.
Is this your first time?
Yes, it's the first time.
Excellent. Where are you joining us from?
I'm from Toronto.
Toronto. Okay.
Yeah.
Our neighbors up north. How's the weather this time of year in Toronto?
It's warm this day. The weather is warm.
How warm? I know you're in the Celsius.
Yes, it's about 26 centigrade.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that is nice and warm.
27, yeah.
Yeah. I remember the easy formula for conversion is 28 Celsius equates to 82 Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So when you say 26, you're hovering around the 80-degree mark.
Yeah, 70, 77, 78
Yep.
Fahrenheit is now.
Nice and cozy.
Yeah.
Well, glad you could join us tonight.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. All right. Sam, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Yep,
Yes.
ready to go.
Excellent. Let me go ahead and start the recording, and then I'll do the couple introductory slides.
This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Nasser, and this is the Azure Cleveland User Group. A little bit about the group. We meet monthly, typically every second week of the month. The meetings are free of charge and open to the public, and we cover a variety of topics related to Azure, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. You can find all the meeting information for both past meetings as well as future meetings posted on meetup.com at the link listed at the bottom of the slide. As always, a big thank you to our sponsors, the .NET Foundation for sponsoring the Meetup website, and NIS Technologies for sponsoring the virtual meeting space. Some general information. First and foremost, please keep in mind participation is encouraged. And like I always say, the only stupid question is the one not being asked. However, when not speaking, kindly ask you to mute your microphones just to avoid any background noise. And we want to keep it casual but organized, meaning jump in with a question or a comment at any point in time, but we also want to give our speaker enough time to go through the demos and the slides. And the presentation is being recorded and will be posted on YouTube in just a few short days, and the link will be available in the chat window shortly after the presentation. So for tonight's feature presentation, we have automated CI and CD workflows with Azure DevOps pipelines, and that's going to be presented by Samuel Gomez. Sam has over 15 years in Microsoft technologies. He joins us from the Columbus area. He's passionate about AI and machine learning, just as myself. And he's very family-oriented, loves to play soccer, is a video game aficionado, as well as watching movies. You can find a lot of his technical articles posted at the soccerdev.com. And with that, we'll turn it over to Sam. Sam, glad you could join us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate bringing me back.
Always welcome.
Right. So let me make sure got the right screen to share. Cool. All right. Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here for this presentation, again titled Building and Automating CI/CD Workflows with Azure DevOps Pipelines. Sam already went through most of the information here. Sam Gomez. I am a Microsoft MVP. I am currently the head of AI at a consulting company called Jenica. Sam already talked about what I like to do when I'm not doing anything technical. And the QR codes on the bottom of the screen there is if you want to get in touch with me. One on the left is all my socials, so LinkedIn, X, although I don't really post that much there. I also have Blue Sky. And the one on the right is if you want to schedule some time to brainstorm about what we are going to talk about today with Azure DevOps Pipelines, or if you want to talk about anything AI, especially in the Azure ecosystem, I'd love to connect and help you out if possible. So let's jump right in. So, what are Azure DevOps pipelines? They are a DevOps feature that automatically builds, tests, and deploys code projects. It combines continuous integration, continuous testing, and continuous delivery, and they support most of the major languages and project types. So if you're working with .NET Core, if you're working with Angular, React, or you're working with any of the other very common programming languages, you are going to be able to build your project and deploy it using Azure DevOps pipelines. So let's talk about the anatomy of a pipeline. Some useful concepts that we're going to see in the demo in a little bit. First and foremost, we have a trigger. So all the pipelines have a trigger. It could be a manual trigger, which in that situation, obviously you are kicking off the process. But more often than not, it's a check-in to a specific branch that starts the entire process. These pipelines are made of different stages. You can think about stages as a way to organize your different steps in the process and your flow. And these stages are built on top of or have jobs inside of them. So you can have different jobs running or a group of jobs in a particular stage. These jobs run on what's called agents. And the easiest way to think about these agents is just a computing resource that is going to execute all these steps in your particular job. So you can have your own agents if there's a very specific, very custom software or packages or something specific that you need to run in your pipeline. You can build your own agents. You can host your own agents, or you can just use the agents that come out of the box when you run your pipelines in Azure DevOps. Another reason for using a specific agents is a security issue. If there's something very specific that you want to keep a little bit tighter, that's another option or another scenario where you want to use these. The jobs are built of different steps. So each job you're going to see in the demo a little bit, we're going to have different steps inside of it. And there's two different things that can go inside a step. So a step is the minimal um, building block for a pipeline. You can have either a script or a task, as you see in the image. A task is a pre-built piece of code or a pre-built script. So these tasks are built by usually Microsoft or from other people that make them available in Azure DevOps. So you can just use that task. For example, there's a task to build a .NET code. So you don't have to. You could build your own script if you want to. If you need to do something custom when you're building your .NET Core application. But if you just want to use what Microsoft built already, you can save yourself a lot of trouble by just going down that route. The other option or the other way that you can go about, like I said, it's a custom script. If you have certain code that needs to run or a step that is not covered by any of the tasks that are available in the Azure DevOps ecosystem, you can write your own code. You'll see that again in a second. Execute specific commands and make them part of your pipeline. Finally, when you run your pipelines, you can either publish to Azure App Service, but you can also publish artifacts. So these are it's a file or a collection of files that can then be used in maybe other steps of the process, or you want to keep some of these build artifacts so that you have a way to kind of roll back or use a very specific version. For example, if you completely break your application, you want to be able to roll it back by using a very specific version of the artifacts. So those are the basic concepts and the basic, like I said, nature of a pipeline. There's two different ways in which you can build these pipelines. The first is the classic mode, and then we also have YAML. So I don't know if there's any YAML fans in the audience, but classic pipelines, you just build them in the ADO portal. So this is a very visual interface. If you've ever been in Azure DevOps, then it's a lot of wizard kind of interface, very easy in the eye, very easy to manage. But most recently, the way that you build these pipelines is with YAML pipelines. The main advantage that you have versus classic pipelines is that these YAML pipelines can be versioned and can be stored just like any other code in your repository. So if you need that level, or it's good to have that kind of audit trail of who changed what, who broke the pipeline, or if we need to go back to a previous version, you can easily do that just the same way that you do any other code in your application. So classic version is still out there. You can still use it, but for most examples that you're probably going to see, it's going to be YAML pipelines. So that's really it as far as theory goes. I don't know about you, but if you've been to one of my presentations before, I prefer to show how things are done and kind of break things along the way. So hoping that we won't break a lot of things here, but just because we know how demos are, I have my little prayer to the demo gods. Let this code compile in on an hour, but a little while. Allow this application to run with speed and zest, as this will keep users glued to my test. If my code blows up in my face, do it with style and grace. And last but not least, when all is said and run, let thy requirements have been correctly done. All right. So let's switch over here to my project. So I have a Azure DevOps project already that I've used in other demos in the past. If any of you were at CodeMesh, that's why it has the CodeMesh name, because this is the first time that I delivered this presentation, and I have here a few different pipelines. So just like any experienced speaker, I was messing with my demo just a few minutes before. So this one, the infrastructure pipeline has currently a failure. We'll see if we can fix it in this demo, depending on time. But I have three different pipelines. Infrastructure is to deploy using bicep templates to deploy resources into Azure. And then I have what I'm calling this integration pipeline, which is deploying a .NET Core application, same thing, into Azure. So it's doing the build and the deployment and all that other fun stuff in there. So I have a couple repos here. I have an infrastructure repo. So here's where I have my resource templates. So these are my bicep files, and I also have my pipelines here. So as I mentioned in the presentation, your pipelines can be stored and can be versioned just like any other piece of code. So I have here my infrastructure pipeline and in my YAML file, and then I have my integration pipeline in my YAML file. I have another repo as well with just a very small application. This is just the very basic API skeleton that you get when you start a new API project in .NET. And that is going to be used so that we can see a build being triggered automatically. So just a quick walkthrough to kind of get our bearings about what this Azure DevOps project looks like and what I have in here. So I'm going to go back to the pipelines real quick. And actually, let me go back to the repos. And let me go back to the infrastructure so that we can look at what a pipeline looks like in this YAML format. So I have this first thing we mentioned, we talked about during the presentation. I'm defining a trigger. In this case, I don't have an automated trigger. So that means that I need to kick this one off manually. I also have defined here some parameters that I'm going to ask the user to provide when somebody's trying to run this pipeline. So I have here an environment pipeline. It's of type string. I'm providing a default value, and then I'm also providing a list of allowed values that somebody can select from. We'll see what it looks like in a second when we try to run that. We also have a location. I have also a default value. And then finally, we have a resource group name variable in here. I have two variables here, a template file and a parameters file. And then here's where we started to also get into what the stages are. So we talked about the stages, which is just a way of organizing the different steps in the pipeline. You could have just one big stage for your entire pipeline, but then once you start running them and you start troubleshooting, it will obviously be harder to do. Just the same way that if when you're building a program, when you're building an application, you want to make sure that you modularize things, you separate your code. It's a similar concept here. So I have this stage that is called validate. It has a couple jobs. One of them is lint. So I'm running just a bicep linter. And here in the steps, you can see, remember, we have two different things that we can have as our steps. One is a script and the other one is a task. So I have here a script. So I'm just running a bicep command to build my my template, make sure that everything is properly configured. And then I'm running a validation also on the template as well. Here, instead of a script, I'm using a task. So again, these are pre-built pieces of code that are available for you to use. You can go to Microsoft documentation and search for the task that you need, and then they provide you with all the documentation as far as which parameters it is expecting, which ones are optional, required, and all that kind of stuff. This number at the end is the version of this particular task that I am going to be using. So again, just like any other pre-built code that is made available, there's different versions, but they have different features. And here in inputs, I'm passing all the values that this particular task requires in order to run. So I'm providing a service connection. I'm providing a location, deployment mode, and if I'm overriding any parameters, I'm providing them as well. So that is the validation stage, or the validate stage. And down here, I have a deploy stage. So again, I am using a task here, and I'm deploying the resources. I'm creating or updating a resource group in this case. So let's take a look at the other pipeline that we have here. This is, I'm calling it the integration pipeline. Here, there's one thing that I wanted to show here, how you can do that. So if you have different, if you're pulling information from different repos, you have the ability to specify that, hey, I want to get my code from this repo, and maybe I want to get, if you want to run one big pipeline with the resource deployment and the code deployment in the same pipeline, you could specify, like, I want to get my code, my application code from this repository. I want to get my bicep templates and all that from this other repository. So this is one way that you can do that. So again, if you want to keep your code separate, if you want to keep all of this completely separated, you can still run your pipelines and you can still reference all that code and check out all that code that you need. So yeah, I'm specifying here that I'm going to use the sample app repo. I'm specifying some triggers as well. And then I'm specifying some variables that I'm going to use throughout the different stages. Here I have again my stages. And then with this build stage, I have a checkout. First, I'm checking out the code. And then I'm running a .NET Restore. Again, these are tasks, pre-built tasks that I'm just reusing. I'm doing a .NET build as well. And I'm running a .NET test. So again, this is all about having your CI/CD pipelines, having your development process automated. So if you have your unit test, this command will run your unit test. Will provide an output for those unit tests as well. So you have your entire process is going to be much more automated, much more streamlined. Then I have another stage here. This is where I'm going to deploy the code. In this case, I'm just deploying it to a container registry. So again, I am using also a task to build a Docker image, providing all the inputs as to where is the code, where is the Docker file, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm publishing that image to a container registry. So you'll see here that these two, and same thing with some of the blocks in higher in here, the task is the same, but there's different commands. So internally, obviously, when you pass this parameter, it knows that it's trying to, you're trying to build, but this time you're trying to push, and you don't have to worry about that because it's something that is pre-built. So I have a deploy to dev stage, and I also have a deploy to QA. So here in your pipelines, if you have separate environments, you have hopefully more than one environment where you're doing all your development and testing, then you can also add something like that here in your pipelines. In this case, I'm requesting a manual approval before pushing anything into QA. So I have a manual validation task. I'm having a timeout of 1 minute here for purposes of the demo, but you can obviously adjust that if you want it to be a little bit longer than that. And you can notify users that they need to approve this particular run, or they need to approve this pipeline. So I'm not going to change it. I might change it in a second if this first demo doesn't go well. But so you can provide instructions as what they need to do in order to actually approve it. So if you want them to do something specific, in this case, I'm just saying validate in dev and approve before it can be pushed to QA. And I'm saying that if it times out, like if nobody provided any sort of approval, then it's going to continue with the process instead of just you could set it up to obviously cancel the entire run or not publish anything into QA if nobody provides provide an approval. And then we have another job here was the actual deployment. We have here this depends on instruction that is saying that this particular deploy to Azure, it depends on this from being completed. So I obviously don't want to deploy anything into Azure unless there has been some sort of approval. And then we want to make sure that we always check for that condition to be satisfied. And then we're again building. We're deploying obviously to the QA container registry instead of the dev container registry. And then we're doing a restart app service. So here there's an issue with this one, which we're going to see in a second. We're going to try to fix it live and see how that goes. But the idea is that we're going to push the new image into the container registry, and then we're going to restart the app service just to make sure that it has the latest code in there. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick pause here, just in case that there's any questions so far. And then if there's no questions, I'm just gonna move on, and we're gonna try to run some of these pipelines to see what that looks like. So any questions so far? All right, I'll take that as a no. So I'm gonna still try to run this one, despite the fact that I know that it's going to fail, just so that you can see what those parameters that I showed in the file look like. So if I click on run pipeline here, you'll see that these are the parameters that I defined in my YAML file. So first I have the environment. As you can see, this is a dropdown because I provided a list of values that are going to be allowed in here. So if you have only a certain amount of environments, for example, maybe you only have 2, then you can make sure that nobody enters a value, uh, an invalid value, and then everything breaks. The location, again, this one has a default value already, and then a resource group name to that this is going to be deployed to. So I'm gonna run it real quick, just so that you can see what that looks like. You can do certain things to only run a certain stage. So if you click here on the stages to run, maybe you only need to run one stage for whatever reason. You can specify that here. So I'm going to click on run, and that is going to start the pipeline. And here you can see that YAML, those YAML stages, or those stages that we have in the YAML file, get translated on the UI to these 2 stages, validate and deploy. And then here you have the jobs as well. So inside the validate stage, we have that run bicep linter and that run prefied validation. So all those names that we specified in that YAML file, this is where they come into play. This is how they are going to display in the screen. So you want to make sure that you use values that are going to make sense to you. So if you click in here, then you can go a little bit deeper into the detail as to which step it's in, what is happening. Like I said here, this one is failing right now because I made some changes, and it looks like there's some cache that it doesn't get clear unless you execute a particular command. Like I said, we'll see if we can fix that on the fly. But you can go in here, see that these are the steps that it was able to run. So initialize the job, check out the files that it needs, and then it failed here in the lint bicep step. And you can see here in the UI as well. And then you can see you have obviously the log of all the runs that you've done and what was the result of it. In this case, again, it's showing that the particular step failed. So we are going to go back over here. All right. So the other pipeline that we looked at is this integration pipeline. So this one has, I'm going to go to the dev one really quick. So again, it's a very basic pipeline or very basic API that I have here. So this is just the basically the skeleton API that you get when you create a .NET program. So this is all running already. So I'm gonna run that. I'm actually gonna make a change real quick. See if it goes through. And I'm actually going to run it first. So even though this one has a trigger for it to run automatically, I can also run it run it manually here. So I'm going to run that pipeline. I don't have any variables on this one, so I'm just going to click on run. And then we're going to see what that looks like. So down here on the sources is telling us that it's getting the infrastructure repository, but it's also getting the sample app repository, which is the one that has the code for the application. We have 3 different stages. So again, what you saw on that YAML file, it gets translated here into the UI. And here, the first thing that it's going to do is going to build, it's going to deploy to dev, and then it's going to request a manual approval before it can do the deployment to QA, quote unquote. Again, same thing. If you go into the jobs, you will see that you will see all the different steps that it's going to have to go through. And in this case, there's a warning because I have a .NET test step in this pipeline, but I don't have any tests in the solution. So it's just letting you know that, hey, you're trying to run some tests, but there's actually nothing in here. So that's going to take a couple minutes. Then so here the other things that you can see is the version or the artifacts that it's consuming. So the code that is um, that is pulling. And let's go back to the pipelines. And it is, so we have the second, the deployment to dev. And I'm going to pull my Outlook here real quick, just because we are going to see that email in a second. Actually, I'll pull it over here. I'm just going to pull the email that we get from Azure DevOps. So I did get one earlier. That's the other thing that if you are using these already, you already know this. But if you're new to Azure DevOps pipelines, you get email notifications when builds succeeded or when builds failed, depending on how you configure all that in your projects, and you get also the details of why it failed. You also get the commits that were part of this particular run. So again, you have all that information in case you need to do some troubleshooting. So here, I'm going to expand this so that you can see that. So we have the manual approval, we have the restart app service, and then we have the deploy web. So see here, the thing that I pointed out that is incorrect in that YAML pipeline is that the restarting of the app service is running without waiting for the approval. So that obviously is not correct, because we're restarting the app, but we haven't deployed anything. And I have not seen the email yet, so this is going to continue with the process without the approval. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see that. So if I click, so approve. Oh, never mind. I wanted to show this step with the email, but you have also the ability to click on that and approve it. The one thing that I don't like about using this particular task is that, as you can see here, this is showing as failed, even though it didn't really fail. It just auto approved, or it just continued with the process, which is what we told them to do. So this is one thing that I don't like about it. But if you give the approval properly, or if you give the approval on time, then this would show a green check mark. And I have one over here. So yeah, right here, so you can see that. So I was able to run this one earlier just to make sure that I could still run it. So I just enter a comment, this is approved. You can see here that these are the instructions that we specified in our YAML file. So this is what it's going to be showing if you do that approval. And I finally got that email a little late, but this is what that email looks like. So it's letting you know that this particular stage is pending manual validation. Who requested this particular run? And then if you click on review manual validation, it takes you to the pipeline screen, and it allows you to provide that approval or say reject. I don't really want to. I don't really want to continue. So we'll go over here. So again, even though this one shows as failed, it didn't really fail. It just continued without a manual approval. And then we deploy that code into the application. So I'm going to look here. So just so that you can see that it is actually doing something. So this repo, you'll see that this is the latest deployment. That's has the latest tag in there. Did a few more tests earlier today, as you can see as well. So you can see that that has been published and is now available. So if you see here, I didn't show it, but it is now showing this testing summary there. So let's now try something. So I'm going to check that in. Hello, my visual user interfaces. So sorry about those of you that do everything with Git on the command line. Apologize in advance for that. So I just pushed a change into my repo. So let's look at that. What's the effect of doing something like that into the pipeline? So again, because I have my trigger on that main branch defined in the pipeline, and then let me show it to you real quick, just a reminder. So I have a trigger. I'm saying that it's going to be a branch trigger, and the branch is going to be main. So because I push that change into main for the code, then it's now going to run that that pipeline again. So this is usually the way that these pipelines are implemented, with automated triggers that that make obviously all this process, all the deployment process, much more automated without having to wait for somebody to deploy, at least to your dev environment. So higher environments like QA, I don't know if you have a UAT, that's where you might want to have a little bit of a more control of when the code makes it into that, because you probably have users testing there, or it's a little bit more delicate trying to push code into those environments. But other than for a dev environment where us as developers usually play, that's the way that you want to do that. So this time I'm gonna click on that manual approval, and I'm not gonna wait for the email, because if it's gonna take a while again, then it's not gonna work. So again, it's already built the code, it already deploying to the dev environment. And the next thing that it's going to do is it's going to do this deployment to QA as well. And then at the end of that, then in here we should see that Azure Cleveland test once is done deploying. So let me click on here just so that you can see what that interface looks like. So I'm going to say approved, and I'm going to resume. I can also say reject. And now we have a green check mark. Yay! So we don't have the failure, the ugly failure in the screen as we had before. And then it's doing now that deployment to web. So think that this one don't have a restart in this. So I think I have to do a quick restart here so we can see those changes. There it goes. There's doing the restart. And the other thing I forgot is that the summary is a random value, so I might have to refresh a couple times for it to show that new summary value that I pushed in the code. But you can see now how easy it is to implement an automated deployment process using Azure DevOps pipelines. The other thing that we're going to look at real quick. So let me go back to pipelines while that is refreshing. So we talked about and we've seen what the YAML development process looks like. So let's take a look now at what the classic pipeline looks like. So one thing that you can do is when you start a new pipeline, it gives you a different option of um, specifying where is your code, and you also can click on this classic editor option down here, which will take you to that classic pipeline experience. So same thing, you're trying to build your pipeline, you're specifying where's your code. So as you can see, you can select GitHub Enterprise, Bitbucket, some other Git repository. So I'm just gonna do this is a team, this is a project. So I have a bunch of different projects here that I could select from, but I'm gonna stay with this one. If I have different repositories, so it shows me the list of repositories I have, and obviously it's gonna give me the option to select a specific branch. So again, you can you can do this as code, or you can select from some of the tasks that are already here. So let's do an empty job. So you can see here, this is a more visual interface. So and more of a kind of a wizard-like experience. So I have here my pipeline. I specified my sources here, so you can change that if you want to. If you selected the wrong repo in the initial page, you can change that here. And then here is where I am specifying the jobs that I'm going to have in this particular pipeline. So we were talking about, we go back here. So I can specify the agent pool that I'm going to use. So Azure Pipelines, or if you have something that you built, then you can use that. We have different agent specifications. And I'm going to change this here. Azure Cleveland. And here it's saying that the agent pool that is going to be used is going to be inherited from the pipeline. You can specify some demands. So these are conditions that you can specify that you want to run on a specific agent. So again, if from security, because of a security requirement, or because this particular agent has this specific software that you might need, or package that you need in order to run your pipeline, you can do that. So you can specify those demands here. Obviously, as the name suggests, these conditions need to be met in order for the pipeline to run. You can specify other things if you want to run these in parallel, like use multiple agents and things like that. But let's say so I'm going to specify that. And then we're going to add this .NET Core. So this is basically the same thing that you're doing in YAML. And as you can see here, if you click on the view YAML, it gives you the YAML code that you need in order to run this particular task. So if, for example, you want to build your pipeline here and then transfer it to YAML, that is something that you could do, even though there is it's not all the features or all the tasks are not available in both places. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. But here I'm specifying what the job is gonna what the name of the job is gonna be. I can specify the connection that I want to use. So I have here, I'm just gonna specify that. Here you have all the different commands that you can run with this particular task. So build, pack, publish, restore, test, anything you want there. The path to the project or the solution. And then you are good to go. So I can save this. Let's see here. So I'm just going to leave it on the folder. Demo for Azure. I'm going to hit save. And then here, the other thing that you can do is, again, you can specify variables. If you're using secrets, for example, so if you have like connection strings and things like that, this is a secret value. You can click on that lock, and that means that you won't be able to see the value, or you won't be able to see the value when you run it. You can check this box if that is something that you want whoever is running that to set that value when it runs. You can specify different triggers. So if I click on enable continuous integration here, I can do the same thing that I had in my YAML pipeline, where I can say that I want to include my main branch as a trigger for this particular pipeline. And then you have history that will take you to all the changes. Some other options that are a little bit more advanced or a little bit more specific for the type of run that you want to run. And I'm going to click on save again. I'm going to leave it empty. And so I have, it's not showing on this because I've never run it. So, but if I go to all, now you'll see that we have that pipeline there. And we also see that this this integration pipeline, it already completed. So let's see if, there we go. So now you can see that automatically we push that change into the code, and it shows automatically here on the Azure resource that we have, on the Azure app that we have there. So let's take a look at this other. So this is another classic pipeline that I built for a different demo. Let me click on edit. So we'll see here in this case, this is an example of how you can set up a classic pipeline to do a bicep deployment. So here, same thing that I specified in the YAML file. And if I click here, you'll see that it's pretty similar to what we have on the other side, or on that YAML file. We're using this task with this particular display name. And then we're also passing all this input here. So like I said, you could migrate your classic pipelines. If you already have classic pipelines and you want to migrate to YAML, you can use this this functionality to do that. But again, this is very easy to set up with the functionality to select your parameters in a more visual fashion. This might be something that people will prefer, and that is most of the demo up to them. So let's go back and let's try, see if we can fix this live, since we have a little bit of time. Actually, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to pause while I go into this pipeline. Are there any questions about anything that we've seen so far? All right. So what we're going to do is for this restart app service, we are going to do something like this. So we're going to say that in order to run this, and I'm going to do this on the screen. I have this, I could open this on Visual Studio Code or something like that. But I'm just going to do here in line just for to make it a little quicker. And what we want is we want it to depend on this. So the order that we want is we want the we only want to restart the app service after we have deployed the code, and obviously after there has been some sort of manual approval for that. So we're going to edit that. We're going to commit that change. Condition to app service restart. All right. So because I have that automated trigger, this is going to run again. And what we should see here, what we want to see, is that this restart app service, as you can see now, the order in which this restart app service shows, before it was showing as the second task in this block, now is the last step, which is what we wanted. So this kind of already shows that it's going to work the way that we want it to work, but let's see if that that is still the case. So the other thing that I am missing, I could probably add here is a restart for this deployment to dev, so that I don't have to manually restart in the dev environments as well. So we might just add that in there if we have time. But let's run this real quick. So it's deploying again to dev, and then what we want to see is that they obviously run in this same order. So any questions while we're waiting for that particular process to run? All right, there we go. Manual approval. So I'm gonna go in here, click on resume. Emails were getting coming a lot faster when I was testing this earlier. So yeah, that change that we did just now worked. So now instead of the restart app service starting after the manual approval, or before, I think it was starting before the manual approval, now it's going to run after this deploy web. So I just got the email for the manual approval, so I'm glad that I pushed the button before. And we're going to go to this, the registry, just so that you can see as well that it is deploying something in here. So so there you go. So this is the one, the latest one. So 6:54 p.m. That's the one that we just pushed with this last build. And there we go. So let me expand here. So it already did all the things that I needed to do, the manual approval, deploy the web, and it also restarted the app service automatically. All right. So that's all I have for today. I hope that you found this useful. Again, it's very easy to get started, very easy to set up these pipelines. And if you're starting your journey and your DevOps journey, or you're trying to get some of these processes more automated, Azure DevOps definitely has a lot of really cool features that let you manage that. So again, let me pull up my my info. If you want to connect with me, uh, always forget the start from here. So slideshow, current slide. I always forget which command it is. So again, socials, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, or if you want to schedule some time to talk about setting up pipelines, if you're trying to get that going, or if you're having some issues with your pipelines in Azure DevOps, again, I'd be happy to assist and connect with you. And yeah, that's it for me today.
Excellent. Those links are definitely going to be very helpful, as well as the entire presentation, quite honestly. Thanks for putting it together, Sam. Highly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we wrap it up for the evening, just have a couple wrap-up slides. So if I may, I'd like to share my screen. All right. So the question on everyone's mind is the meeting being recorded, and will it be posted on YouTube? Yes, indeed. And the link for that is listed on the slide, as well as, if you give me just a moment, I will paste that into chat. And so there is the link for the YouTube channel. In addition, I kindly ask you to subscribe to get upload notifications. Also, tech events, which we'll cover in just a moment, those are posted on my blog. And again, please subscribe to that to get the updates. And last but not least, there's a link listed in the chat window for the feedback eval form. Please take a moment to fill that out so we can provide Sam with some constructive criticism. With regards to events, these are regional events within, let me rephrase it. These are regional events to the greater Cleveland area. Many of them are online, some are in person. So for July 16th is the Akron AITP event. That's going to be a networking event, and they're going to be meeting in person. And allow me to share the link for that. You can find the link for that on my blog, where the link is posted in the chat window. And so on July 17th is going to be a tech summer networking event. Again, that's obviously in person. And that will be happening at the Hi-Ho Brewing Company on Front Street in Cuyahoga Falls. And then going forward on July 17th, which is a Thursday, is the glug.net, or the Greater Lansing User Group for Developers. And they're going to be having their monthly meeting. And for that month, it's going to be, I think I passed the topic, all about health checks and .net. So it should be a very useful presentation. And on July 23rd, if I go back to my slide, on July 23rd is the Cleveland C# User Group that will be meeting online. Moving on to conferences, on August 1st is going to be Cincy Deliver. As you might have guessed, that's going to be happening in Cincinnati. That is an all-day event of various topics related to .NET and other technologies. That's going to be on Friday, August 1st. And then on August 13th through the 15th is Kansas City Developer Conference, also known as KCDC. And the link for that is kcdc.info. All these links are posted on my blog. So once you subscribe, you'll be able to get the notifications once new events are posted. Now, regarding jobs, I always like to ask who's hiring and who's looking for work. So if you're currently at a place where they're looking for additional resources, please make yourself known either verbally or into chat. And likewise, if you are in the job market, please make yourself known and introduce yourself to others, so that way we can all help each other out. In addition, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Libertine. Although he's not with us tonight, he has been a sponsor of the group in the past, and he is someone that I have worked with for years. and I can honestly say he's a very reputable recruiter. So if you're in the job market, I encourage you to reach out to Chris Libertine, and you can reach him through LinkedIn, and he works with Genesis 10. In addition, devitjobs.com. It's a great website for searching available positions. You can sort on technology, whether it's remote or in person, and the geographical location, and whether they're looking for a junior or senior type level expertise. So it's a great website for job hunting. Again, it's devitjobs.com. And lastly, if there's any questions I can answer for you, my email is snasser@nistechnologies.com. You can also find all my socials on Linktree. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, let's do so. It's a great platform for connecting and sharing information. And so with that, thanks again to Sam Gomez for a great presentation, and thank you all for attending, and look forward to seeing you at future events. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This conference is no longer being recorded.